Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to discuss the fear of opening up new credit cards and how to move past it. Now, if you're someone who's deep in the points and miles game, you may hear this and kind of chuckle at the thought of being fearful about applying for a new credit card. But there are a lot of people out there who actually are afraid of either getting a new credit card or applying for a new credit card. I talk to a ton of people in person about credit cards and also read about it in forums where I see that people do not want to add a new credit card to their wallet because of many different fears that end up being connected with it. So in this video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about different ways to move past it, and then also some of the misinformation that is out there about getting new credit cards. Now, like I said earlier in the video, I talked to a lot of people in person about credit cards. And the thing that I've learned is that most people that I speak with either have no credit cards or maybe only one credit card. And when I talk to these people about having multiple credit cards, most of them end up looking at it as though maybe it's some type of scam because they can't quite understand why someone ended up having multiple credit cards and how it won't actually negatively affect them. Now, this thought sticks in their brain quite hard, and it's actually quite difficult to get past the idea in their head that having multiple credit cards isn't a bad thing. Now, if you've happened to be in this situation talking with someone else about credit cards and they happen to think that it's a scam or that only negative things can happen from having multiple credit cards, send them this video because hopefully by the end of the video, it will help them understand why it isn't a bad thing and actually can end up being a positive thing if you can end up being a responsible person with your cards. Now, before I get any farther in this video, I just want for people watching this to know that you do not have to have 20 different credit cards. I realize they can end up being a hassle managing all these different lines of credit. So if that's something that you don't want to do, then you definitely don't have to have this many credit cards. But also, if you happen to have one credit card in your wallet and you actually have shown that you are responsible with paying this card off in full every single month, then adding another card to your wallet will be perfectly fine for you to be able to manage because you've already proven that you are a responsible enough adult to not get yourself into credit card debt. So let's go over some of the things that you don't need to fear about credit cards. The first thing is going to be associating credit cards with debt. If you go out to the street and you interview people and ask them questions about credit cards, and you ask people, if someone happens to have 20 credit cards, what does this mean? The vast majority of people are probably going to think that someone who has 20 credit cards has a ton of debt, because people associate having more credit cards equaling more debt. Because if you end up needing more lines of credit, which is the reason why you end up getting yourself a credit card, then why would you end up getting so many lines of credit other than for the reason that you need a lot of money that you don't actually happen to have? Because if you have one credit card that gives you a $10,000 limit, but then you happen to need another credit card that gives you another $10,000 limit, then why do you need two credit cards giving you $20,000 in limit if you've already been perfectly fine with that one credit card? So people are going to just associate having multiple credit cards with equaling more debt, but this ends up just not being accurate. I'm someone who has many different credit cards, and my available lines of credit is close to about $300,000, but I do not use anywhere near that amount throughout the year. In fact, throughout the year, I probably only use about 10% of all of my available lines of credit. So what I want people to gain from this information here is that just because you have a lot of available credit does not mean that you actually have to use all that available credit. If that's what you think is going to happen to you, if you end up having all this available access to money, then yes, you definitely should not end up getting yourself multiple credit cards. But if you've already shown that when you have one credit card that you don't do this, then I don't know why you would start doing it if you end up having 2, 3, or 4 credit cards. So you may wonder, well, if I don't use all this available credit, what's the point of even having all of this credit? And the reason why I have all of this credit is because I use many different credit cards for different uses. So different credit cards have different benefits and then also earning potential in different categories. So I have a credit card that I use for flights that I end up booking directly with the airlines. I have a credit card that I use at the grocery store and also with restaurants. So having specific credit cards to give you higher multipliers when it comes to these different categories can allow you to earn more points as compared to just having one credit card, because there is only one credit card out there that's going to be able to hit all these different categories with higher multipliers. And with each of these different credit cards that I get, I end up getting lines of credit somewhere between $5,000 all the way up to $30,000. So this is how you can end up having a ton of available credit, but still not actually using all of it, because while I may end up having a credit card specifically with Hyatt for Hyatt hotel stays, I'm not going to be spending tens of thousands of dollars with the World of Hyatt program. I may end up spending a few $100s throughout the month for a specific Hyatt hotel stay, so I can end up getting myself a bunch of Hyatt hotel points, but then I will pay it off immediately, and I don't need to get myself anywhere near the line of credit that is actually given to me with the Hyatt hotel credit card. And many of the credit cards that I have no annual fee. So because the fact that they have no annual fee, it doesn't really make that much sense for me to cancel them. Because if they don't have an annual fee, then I don't have to worry about having to give the banks anything. If these cards just sit in my sock drawer, then there's not going to really be any negative benefits of actually just keeping these cards. In fact, there can end up only being positive, because if I actually end up having this card and there may end up being an added benefit that ends up getting attached to the card, say for instance like the Saver One card, when that card first came out, it didn't have an Uber One membership and then also giving you 10x back with Uber rides. So now if you were someone who ended up getting that card when the card initially came out, but you weren't really using it, and now you end up seeing you can end up getting yourself a higher multiplier with Uber, you'll be very happy you didn't cancel that card. And then also, actually having more available credit improves your credit score. Which brings me to the next point, which is that people believe that if you end up having multiple credit cards, it's gonna end up hurting your credit score. Now, having multiple credit cards does not give you a terrible credit score. And I think the reason why people associate these two things end up being because if you end up applying for a new credit card, having a hard inquiry added onto your account will actually drop your credit score a little bit. So if you actually apply for a new credit card, get approved for it, and you end up actually looking at your credit score, you may actually end up seeing that your credit has dropped slightly. But the thing about it is that's only gonna be for a short term. When you actually end up looking at the long-term effects from actually having a new credit card, it's actually going to improve your credit score. And then also, utilization is a massive part of your credit score. So if you only happen to have one credit card that has a $10,000 limit and you end up using $5,000 on that card every single month, you're using 50% of the utilization with your card, which ends up being a really high percentage. And this actually will affect your credit score and bring it down. But if you open up a second credit card and they add an additional $20,000 in available credit, so now you have a total of $30,000 of available credit and you're using $5,000 of the available credit spread apart all these different cards, this actually isn't going to be that high of utilization. So when the credit bureaus actually end up looking at you, your credit score won't be dropping that much. So you don't want to be having 50% or 70% utilization with cards. You want to have somewhere near about 10% with utilization. So this is the reason why actually having multiple lines of credit and then being able to have a ton of available credit will actually improve your credit score over the long run. Now, I know that I'm just a random guy on YouTube, and I do recommend that you end up doing more research outside of me to confirm the information that I'm giving you, but I have opened up many different credit cards over the last year, and I still have a credit score in the low 800s. So if you believe me even just a little bit, what this ends up meaning is that opening up multiple credit cards will not terribly destroy your credit score. What's going to end up happening is that you will drop a little bit, but then having more available lines of credit over time will actually end up improving your credit score. Because the two major factors when it comes to your credit score is going to be on-time payments and utilization. So if you just be responsible and make full on-time payments every single month, but also actually have a decent amount of available credit and not use too much of utilization, then you should actually have a pretty good credit score. The next reason why I think that people don't apply for a new credit card is because of the fear of rejection. Now, I know that it doesn't feel good if you apply for a credit card and then you end up getting denied, but you have to be able to take these type of chances to be able to reap the rewards that end up coming from applying for a new credit card. I've been rejected for many different credit cards, but what I've noticed over time from being rejected from credit cards is that if there's a card that I want to apply for that I end up getting denied for, maybe next year if I apply for it, I might actually end up getting approved for that card then. Or if there's a card that I apply for and end up getting denied for, there might end up being a card with similar benefits and earning potential that I can apply for right after that I actually end up getting approved for. So don't think about the possibility of getting denied. Just know that you have to take the swing to actually have the opportunity to hit a home run. And the last fear that people have about opening up a new credit card is going to be managing multiple different credit cards. Now, this fear I actually can't understand because there's a certain level of focus that each one of us actually want to put into our cards. There are some people out there like myself who are perfectly fine with having many different credit cards because we put a decent amount of time into looking at credit cards, studying credit cards, and then when it comes to their points, trying to do the best we can to earn the points. But there are also a lot of people out there, in fact, probably the vast majority of people out there who don't want to have to put that much thought into their credit cards. They just want to have one main credit card that they actually end up using, racking up a bunch of points with that credit card, and then focusing on the account that is connected with that credit card. So if you happen to be one of those people and you happen to have a Chase Sapphire Preferred card, but you also happen to have a card with Barclays, even though you are a responsible person who ends up paying off your card in time, you may end up forgetting that you even need to log into your Barclays account from time to time if you happen to have like a reoccurring bill that ends up going on there because you're mainly focused on your Chase account. So what I would say to people that end up being in this situation recommendation is that I would apply for cards that end up being with the same exact credit issuer. So if you happen to have something like the Chase Sapphire Preferred, I'd recommend getting the Chase Freedom Flex card or the Chase Freedom Unlimited card. Because not only are these cards going to give you different multipliers to give you better earnings, but also with these cards, you can actually see all of them on the exact same account. So when you end up logging onto your Chase account, you'll see your Chase Sapphire Preferred, also your Chase Freedom Flex card if you end up getting that card, and your Chase Freedom Unlimited card if you end up getting that card. You can do the exact same thing with American Express, and I always recommend that people who are going to be newer in this game and end up having multiple cards that they need to manage to start off with no annual fee cards, because if you end up having no annual fee cards, it's a lot easier to manage because you don't have to worry about those annual fees hitting and you forgetting about actually having those cards. And for that reason, the Chase program can end up being a great one because many of their good cards actually don't end up having annual fees. Now, I'm making this video because I know people in my life, and also I read different people on forums and in different chat rooms who talk about how they want to go on a trip, but they only happen to have one credit card and they spend about $50,000 throughout the year, and they have a family of 3. And they're trying to figure out exactly how they can end up doing a luxury trip. And when I end up seeing this, I think to myself, well, there's a few different options that you're gonna have. You could either spend more money with your card, which kind of defeats the purpose of actually trying to earn these points to get yourself a cheap luxury trip, or you can end up waiting a long time until you actually end up earning enough points for your family of 3 to be able to go on this luxury trip. Or if you want to be more realistic, because if you're spending $50,000 throughout the year with one credit card, chances are, even if you end up doing everything right, you might end up getting yourself right near like 100,000 or a little over 100,000 points. So you're going to need to get yourself multiple credit cards. If you end up just getting over this fear of actually applying for new credit cards, then what can end up happening is that you could end up applying for a new credit card and then 6 months later applying for another new credit card, refer your spouse to these credit cards as well, and then right there, chances are you should actually have enough points to be able to get your family of 3 on a luxury trip if you just end up doing a little bit of research and finding great award availability. Now trust me, I know that this hurdle is tough, and I've talked to many different people who have this just stuck in their head. But I promise you, if you are someone who is responsible with your finances and you happen to have a credit card that you paid off in full every single month, you don't have any late payments or any debt, if you actually apply for new credit cards, get approved for them, and hit their sign-up bonus, you don't have to get yourself 20 credit cards, but if you just get yourself a couple of new credit cards, maybe throughout the year, you're gonna be able to have yourself enough points to be able to take that luxury trip that you've been dreaming about, and then you'll look back at the moment to when you thought you couldn't get yourself new credit cards, and you'll do one of 2 things. You'll either laugh thinking about it, or you'll be kicking yourself that you didn't start doing this earlier. Because once you realize how much value you can end up getting if you happen to be a responsible person with your finances from credit cards, then it just makes sense to apply for a new credit card, take advantage of these rewards, and enjoy an awesome adventure. But hopefully you enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comment section down below if you happen to have been a person in the past who was scared of applying for new credit cards because of one of the different fears that I listed in this video. And if you happen to know anyone who has a fear of applying for new credit cards, please send them this video. And if you happen to be interested in applying for any new credit cards, check out my referral links in the description box. If you decide to use them, they will really help out the channel. I'd be incredibly thankful for your support. If you haven't had any questions, drop those down in the comment section down below. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, share the video, and have a beautiful rest of your day. Peace.